It is one of the most recognized symbols on Earth. An eye, stylized, ancient, looking not outward but through. The Eye of Horus, carved into temple walls, painted onto tombs, hung around necks, etched into skin, tattooed onto memory. But this was never decoration. This was a code. Because this eye, unlike the eyes in your face, was never meant to see the world. It was meant to see truth. In ancient Egypt, they called it Wedjat, the sound one, the restored, the whole. And that alone tells the story. Because the eye was broken, torn from Horus in his battle against Set, the god of chaos. It was shattered, stolen, hidden, and only later healed. Not by time, but by Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, who restored the eye piece by piece. Which is why the Eye of Horus isn't just a symbol, it is a map of fracture and return, of loss and remembering, of blindness and revelation. You see it everywhere because something in you recognizes it, not as art, as reminder. The Eye of Horus is the eye of consciousness, not ordinary awareness, not physical sight, but deep perception, the kind that sees patterns behind events, meaning behind noise, intelligence behind chaos. It is the eye that looks inward and through. In the temples, it was placed over the sarcophagus, not just for protection, but to guide the soul, to help it remember itself as it crossed the veil. Because to the ancients, the greatest danger was not death, it was forgetting. Forgetting who you are, forgetting why you came, forgetting what you already know deep inside. The eye is a cure for that forgetting. A signal, a tool, a portal carved into geometry. Its shape is not arbitrary. Every curve, every angle aligns with parts of the brain, parts of the soul, parts of a deeper anatomy you've never been taught to see. This is why it watches. This is why it endures. Because it represents the part of you that never stopped watching. Even when you did, even when you closed your eyes, even when you stopped trusting your own knowing. The Eye of Horus never closes. And it's not outside you, it is within you. Waiting, observing, remembering. The eye is not decoration, it is invitation. To open again, to see again, to know again. And not with the eyes in your face, but with the one that sees what's real. It did not begin in peace, it began in war. A war not for territory, but for order itself. Horus, son of Osiris, stood against Set, the god of storms, of chaos, of fragmentation, not as hero against villain, but as balance against disruption. The battle raged across heaven and earth. Gods watched in silence. Time bent. Forms broke. And in the heart of it, Horus lost his eye. Set tore it out, not just as violence, but as statement. He took from Horus his vision, his clarity, his right to see the world as it truly is. But here's the mystery. The eye didn't die. It wandered. It became disembodied. It traveled realms, broken into 6 parts, each one holding a fraction of perception: sight, hearing, thought, taste, touch, intention. It became incomplete, but not forever. Because the eye was found by Thoth, the god of wisdom, the keeper of balance, numbers, words, the scribe of the gods, and the healer of perception. He did not simply return the eye, he restored it, piece by piece, layer by layer, until the eye was once again whole. And in that act, a deeper pattern was revealed. The eye must be broken to be activated. It must be lost to be remembered. It must be shattered to become sacred. Because the journey of Horus is your journey. You are born with sight, you see the world, but then something happens, you are hurt, misled, distracted. Your inner eye is pulled apart, your sense of truth fractures, and in that chaos, like Horus, you lose your vision. But the story doesn't end there. Because within you, like in the myth, lives a force like Thoth, a deeper wisdom, a knowing that doesn't panic, that simply begins to rebuild, to restore your vision, not just to see, but to perceive, not just to look, but to understand. This is the battle, not against evil, but against fragmentation. And the eye is the symbol of its resolution, of remembrance, of wholeness after separation, of clarity after distortion. It's not about mythology, it's about you, and the part of you that is learning to see again, not through the wounds, but through the restoration of what was always sacred. The eye was never truly lost, only waiting to return. And now, perhaps it has. At first glance, it's just an eye, but look closer and you'll see the universe encoded in fractions. The Eye of Horus is not just a symbol, it's a mathematical code. 6 parts, each one representing a sense, each one a power of perception, and each part a fraction of unity. Asterisk 1/2 for smell, asterisk 1/4 for sight, asterisk 1/8 for thought, asterisk 1/16 for hearing, asterisk 1/32 for taste, asterisk 1/64 for touch. Together, they sum to 63/64. Never quite whole, just almost, an intentional imperfection, as if to say, perception is always just shy of totality. And yet, this missing 1/64, that's where the mystery begins. Because the missing piece is not a flaw, it's an invitation. An echo of the myth. The eye was broken, reassembled, but never fully restored until spirit intervened. Until wisdom, Thoth returned the final spark. That missing 1/64 is intuition. It is the non-linear knowing, the inner sight, the link between intellect and divinity. It's the reminder that not everything can be measured, that there is always something just beyond the edge felt, not seen. This is sacred math, not to control, but to harmonize, to show how even perception has structure, that each sense is not just biology, but a frequency, a gate, a part of the whole map of consciousness. The eye is a fractal. Every curve, every point, reflects principles of geometry and proportion. It echoes the golden ratio. It aligns with the pineal gland. It mirrors the spiral of galaxies, the curl of DNA, the spin of atoms. Because the ancients didn't guess, they saw. They encoded what they saw into symbol, and what they saw was this. Consciousness has form, and that form can be drawn, felt, carried. The Eye of Horus is not just protection. It is a diagram of how to perceive with clarity. It is how the soul counts, how the self remembers its senses, how awareness comes home, not in a single flash, but fraction by fraction, until, at last, you awaken and realize that nothing was missing, only waiting to be restored. There is a reason the Eye of Horus looks familiar, not as art, but as anatomy. Because when you slice the human brain from the side and trace the inner structures and profile, you see it. The eye, perfectly mapped, curve for curve, dot for dot, shape for meaning. Coincidence or memory? Because the ancient Egyptians, without modern tools, somehow mapped the architecture of consciousness inside the skull. The Eye of Horus aligns with asterisk, the corpus callosum, the curved line, asterisk, the thalamus, the pupil, asterisk, the pineal gland, the flame between worlds. This is not just artistic metaphor, it's biosymbolic design. The eye is not only what sees, it is where sight originates. Not external vision, but inner knowing. The eye points us toward the pineal gland, that tiny, pine cone-shaped structure at the center of the brain, nestled between the two hemispheres, right at the crossroads of the soul. For centuries, mystics have called it the seat of the soul, the third eye, the gateway between worlds. Modern science confirms. It produces melatonin. It responds to light. It contains piezoelectric crystals. It may even react to magnetic fields. But ancient science knew more. They saw it as a transceiver, a receiver of light beyond the physical, a sender of intention into the subtle layers of reality. And the Eye of Horus was its glyph, its emblem, its instruction manual. To activate the eye is to activate the pineal, to awaken that inner point of light, to cleanse perception, to see without distortion. This is why initiates spent time in darkness, why temples had narrow shafts aligned with the stars, why symbols were placed directly over the third eye on sarcophagi and statues. Because to open the eye was not poetry, it was ritual technology. And the pineal wasn't mystical decoration, it was the portal. To dream, to receive, to remember. The Eye of Horus is your brain, but seen through the lens of eternity. It reminds you that the power to see truth does not lie in the world outside, but in a spark inside you, small, ancient, quiet. And when you return to that spark, not just with belief, but with attention, it begins to pulse. And in that pulsing, your vision clears. Not just what you see, but how you see it. Because the eye was never about the world. It was about the seer. They wore it not to impress, they wore it to survive. On pendants, on amulets, over tombs, under sails, painted on the prows of ships, carved into the walls of temples, placed above doorways, foreheads, hearts. The Eye of Horus was not fashion, it was force. It protected not with violence, but with awareness. Because what is danger really? It's what you didn't see coming. And the eye sees. Not like human eyes, focused, limited, forward, but like a presence, all-seeing, circular, deep. The eye was placed on the left side of coffins, not randomly but ritually, so the soul could recognize itself as it moved through the underworld. To protect you in death, yes, but more so to protect your memory. Because forgetting who you are is the most dangerous thing of all. To the Egyptians, the eye didn't just block evil, it dissolved it by seeing it clearly. No fear, no illusion, just clarity. That was the magic. Because the eye is perception, but not passive. It is perception so refined, so steady, that reality responds to it. This is why the Eye of Horus also represented power. Not domination, but energetic sovereignty. It was placed on kings' foreheads, between their brows, as if to say, this one sees beyond illusion. This one rules not just with law, but with vision. The symbol became a boundary, a shield of frequency. The idea was simple. Where the eye is open, darkness cannot hide. And darkness doesn't fear light. It fears being seen. So when the eye rests over your heart, over your home, over your name. You are declaring something. I will not look away. I will see fully, and nothing will pass through me unnoticed. That is power. That is protection. That is presence. The Eye of Horus doesn't repel with force. It harmonizes distortion. It awakens awareness. It activates your inner witness. And the one who is fully present cannot be possessed, because perception is the real protection, and the eye is always open. The eye is not a destination, it is a doorway, and to pass through it is to leave behind everything borrowed and walk toward what is true. In the mystery schools of Egypt, the eye was not just studied, it was entered. Not physically, but through ritual, silence, darkness, breath. The initiate would descend into chambers carved in stone, into silence thick enough to swallow thought, into themselves. Why? Because the Eye of Horus is not about seeing more, it is about seeing differently. To activate the eye is to shift perception from outside to inside, from reaction to awareness, from scattered light to focused flame. This is inner vision. It doesn't come through effort, it comes through remembrance of what it feels like to be still, to be present, to observe without judging, to feel without fleeing, to witness without clinging. The eye awakens when the ego softens, not dies, but steps aside. And what remains is clarity. Not because you've gained something new, but because you've removed distortion. Like the dust from a mirror, like fog lifting from water. The eye shows you not visions, but truths. Of yourself, of others, of how energy moves beneath the mask of form. It's not about seeing aura or light. It's about sensing alignment, feeling what is real, knowing what is hollow, trusting what the body says before the mind explains it away. That's why the eye was given to initiates, not the masses, because it doesn't flatter you, it doesn't comfort. It reveals. It shows the shadow, the split, the part of you that forgot your name. And in doing so, it invites you to come home. This is the real initiation, not learning more, but unlearning everything that is not you. To walk the path of the eye is not to become enlightened, it is to become aligned with presence, with perception, with the pulse of truth behind appearance. And when you cross that threshold, not in belief, but in being, you realize something quietly revolutionary. You don't need to open the eye. It was never closed. You only needed to stop turning away. There are two eyes in the myth, two paths, two powers. The right eye of Ra, the sun, the left eye of Horus, the moon. And between them, a secret balance. Most see only the one, the famous Eye of Horus, the left, lunar, intuitive, inner. But the Egyptians knew you need both to truly see, because each eye holds a half of perception. The right eye is solar, active, direct, logic, structure, authority. It sees the world as it is, sharp, focused, awake in daylight. It rules the left brain analysis, language, reason. It governs the scene. The left eye, the Eye of Horus, is lunar, fluid, receptive, mysterious. It governs the right brain, emotion, image, intuition. It dreams, it feels, it sees what lies beneath. It governs the unseen. And here lies the code. To see with only one eye is to see a world divided. To perceive with both is to move through reality in wholeness. The ancient initiates knew enlightenment is not the domination of light over dark. but the marriage of Sunday and moon within. To live from one eye is to see contrast. To live from both is to sense coherence. The eye of Ra burns through illusion. The eye of Horus absorbs meaning. One projects, the other reflects. One acts, the other receives. And when they work together, you don't just see clearly, you know. You become like Thoth, scribe of reality, not just a character in it. Because the two eyes aren't just dualities, they're currents. They are how energy flows through you. Inhale and exhale, thought and silence, masculine and feminine, sunrise and starlight. In the temples, the eye of Ra was drawn on the right wall, the eye of Horus on the left. The initiate walked between them into the middle path. And that's the real meaning. The awakened one doesn't choose a side. They see with both. They lead with clarity, but guided by feeling. They speak truth, but listen with stillness. They are sharp, but not harsh, soft, but never blind. Because vision is not in the eyes, it is in the balance between them. And when the left eye and the right become one gaze, you no longer see the world as broken. You see it as alive. At some point, you realize the eye was never about vision. It was about being. Because what is true seeing if not the ability to be fully present with what is? The eye of Horus was never meant to give you power over others, but to return you to wholeness within yourself. Not to look for truth, but to become a space in which truth naturally reveals itself. To see with the whole self is to see without resistance, without fear, without distortion, without the filter of your stories. It is to let light move through you and not bend it. It is to let darkness approach and not reject it. It is to witness every shadow, every spark, every lie you've ever believed, and stay still. In the ancient temples, the eye was not just over the door. It was etched into mirrors, into water bowls, into the heart of initiation chambers. Because the eye reminded the seeker, you are not here to find something. You are here to remember what you are. You are the field that sees, the flame that reflects, the stillness behind the gaze. And when you begin to see this not through belief, but through quiet experience, everything changes. Because now you see with your body, with your breath, with your nervous system, with your energy. You no longer seek signs because life becomes the sign. You no longer chase meaning because presence becomes enough. And the eye? It is no longer an object, a drawing, a myth on a wall. It is you, wide open, clear, still, not watching for what's wrong, not seeking what's right, just being here so fully, so deeply, that truth has no choice but to rise. This is enlightenment, not a place, not a glow, but a return to the one who was always looking through every lifetime, every dream, every breath. The eye within you.